So, hi, I am Paul Carroll, the editor-in-chief at Insurance Thought Leadership, joined today by Steve Johnson, who is the founder and head of product at Insured.io. We're talking generally about user experience, a topic that I've covered in all kinds of different ways. I think this will be especially interesting because Steve has commissioned some research that's come up with some really intriguing findings about just how important user experience is and about how to shape that experience. So, Steve, without further ado, why don't you tell us a little bit about the recent research?
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and nice to be here. So this is really interesting. Last year, we did a pretty big research project on 250,000 of our users about how user experience and customer experience impacted retention. And so this year, we wanted to explore how user experience impacts customer acquisition, kind of covering all ends of the policy lifecycle. So we went out and we surveyed a whole bunch of users across multiple different socioeconomic backgrounds, demographics, genders, to figure out how important user experience actually is when choosing their insurance carrier. And I will say the results that we found were really interesting.
So, yeah, the thing that really popped to me is the comparison of the importance to brand. We were now in college football season, so I turn on a game and I get the Allstate ads and I get the Liberty Mutual and get all these ads. Companies are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on brand advertising. But what you're saying is that getting the portal right, getting the interaction right, getting the experience right turns out to be just as important.
Yeah, and this is what we've kind of found to be absolutely the most shocking. And when all of these customers were surveyed, the top two most important things were as expected. Price of policy and coverage options are absolutely the most important things when choosing their carrier. However, it's really interesting that we found that the brand and reputation of an insurance carrier and the quality of their online portal or mobile app are now equal in consumers' eyes when they are choosing their insurance carrier. And from an age perspective, it's twice as important for people under the age of 45, and that's millennials, that's Gen Z, that will be Gen Alpha very shortly, than it was for older customers, those over the age of 45. So it's really interesting when you look at just how important this is in this kind of new era where I don't even think customer expectations are changing. Customer expectations have changed. And what we thought was the most important, 5 years ago, is now not the most important thing at all.
Right. And of course, you want to capture that new generation of customers because, I mean, those are the people who are going to conceivably be with you for decades or even for their whole lifetime. So while it's certainly important to think about those of us who are over 45, that younger generation is really where you want to be putting your real thinking about the future.
Yeah, and while insurance is not necessarily something that the younger generations are actively thinking about and are actively engaged in, it is something that they need, and that as they get older, they will continue to be the most important purchasers. And tailoring these experiences to make sure it aligns with their expectations is becoming so much more important now than it ever was.
And some of these younger folks not only won't go into an agent's office to think about a policy, I think increasingly aren't even inclined to go on websites, right? I think you told me something about how something like 85% of a certain segment of that population only views their policies on their phones.
Yeah, that's true. And across our user base, we've seen this exponentially grow just over the last few years, to the point where, 85% of users are accessing their policy only on their phone. They've not even via desktop at all. So they're not logging into their computers. They are only on their phone. And that is a massive change from only a few years ago. I mean, we've done this analysis, a couple of years and or every year since 2018, 2019, when those numbers were high 60s and 70%. And that's only 5 years.
Yeah, apps aren't nice to have any longer. They're a have to have, or you're missing out on a whole segment of the population. I mean, based on the survey results and the kind of work you do, what would you say are the most important things to get right in the user experience?
Let's talk about this a little bit because from the people that we surveyed, 81% of people are preferring to handle all of their routine tasks for managing their insurance policy via the website or the mobile app. And these routine tasks are things like making a payment, getting document information, viewing their coverage details, making policy changes. All of these things that are the major usages of an insured platform. They're preferring to do this now, solely online, and it's actually pretty simple. If you are putting a roadblock to doing any of these tasks up from an online portal or a mobile app or through text message, then you are alienating a large amount of your customer base right out the gate because they want to do these things.
So one of the findings that you talked about that really struck me was that it's becoming really important for people involved in a claim to be able to get automatic notifications of the status of the claim. I mean, I think we're all accustomed now to buying something from Amazon and being able to track it as it comes to our house. Well, it's a lot more important to be able to track the status of the adjuster's work on a car accident or a homeowner's claim or whatever, and know when that money is going to show up. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So claims is really interesting. I've always said that your Yelp reviews as a company, those come from your claims experience. Nobody's leaving a bad Yelp review or a good Yelp review when it comes to what your website looks like, but they will leave a bad one if your claims experience is poor. And with the changing customer expectations coming from, just something like Amazon. When I order something from Amazon, I know exactly what the state of that package is at any given point. I know when it's been boxed up. I know when it's been sent. I know where it is in any given process of the time, and I know when it's out for delivery. That's what I want to know when it comes to my claim. And that's what everybody, it seems, is really interested in. Nearly 60% of people said that they would switch carriers to somebody that offers automated updates on their claim status. And what does that mean? That means that when they log into the website, they want to be able to see where their claim is at any given time. They want to be notified when it's something on their change or something on their claim changes, either via a text message or a push notification, even an email. All of these steps that you can take to let an insured know what is going on with their claim. Because if you have a bad experience there, that customer's gone forever. They are likely not going to come back, as you can see from their willingness to switch carriers when it comes to that level of claims experience. So it is very, very important from the beginning of claim, from first notice of loss, all the way to the moment they receive that check, that the insured knows what is going on with their claim.
So from your experience, what's the state of play at the moment? I've always assumed that the exemplars are Progressive, Geico, maybe a couple of others, but where does the industry stand at the moment, and what would you be telling insurers that they should start doing differently?
So there are absolutely some companies that are doing it really well. Companies like Progressive and Geico and Lemonade, for example. All of these companies have, embraced the ability to do whatever you need to do online 24/7 at any given time. These are major players in the space, but for many, many carriers, mid-market, you can't offer all of these things all at any given time, or at least it feels like you can't, because you feel like there's a big technology investment to get behind this and to improve all of the customer journeys. Realistically, you don't have to spend millions of dollars reconstructing your entire process. You can solve many of these problems with just a bit of paying attention to what the customers want and making sure that for your customers that they can get that information and that it's in front of them when they need it, and that it's with any device that they want to access it with. And getting to that point, while it can be a struggle, is going to be the name of the game here.
So you talked about how this latest research built on research you did a year or so ago on retention. There were any number of things that popped to me in that study on retention, but could you maybe go through a couple things that surprised you the most?
Yeah, and so I want to talk a little bit about this concept of omni-channel, and that's how we started this study when it came to retention, is how customers are using multiple different channels to manage their policy. That is, are they going online? Are they accessing a chat bot? Are they using an IVR? Are they using text messages? Are they talking to customer service representatives? What we found is that when you offer a consistent multi-channel experience and you cover the breadth of what insureds like to use, which is those things that I mentioned, there's a 21% higher retention rate for those customers that are using those channels than those that are only using customer service directly. And that is a huge number when it comes to, earned premium, 21% higher. And it's fascinating because some of these individual components have huge impact. We found in that study that just sending a text message reminder when a policy is about to cancel can decrease your cancellation rate by 52%. Crazy number. Just by making sure you have an up-to-date customer email address, the customers where we had an up-to-date email address versus ones that we didn't had a 13% higher retention rate. These are all very important numbers when it comes to your generalized user experience and how it impacts making sure that you keep those customers. And it's not just about like reminding them to pay their bill so they don't cancel. It's about customer loyalty. It's about, the quality that you provide for that customer so that they don't leave and they don't go shop somewhere else. They have no reason to, basically.
Yeah, I had occasion to think of that 52% number recently. I have my auto insurance with Progressive, and they had sent me a note saying that an email saying that my policy was getting ready to renew. And I sort of thought, yeah, I'll get to it. And then about 2 weeks later, they sent me a text message. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe I better look at this. And I was still, a week and a half, couple weeks away from having the policy lapse, but they made it easy and boom, I did it right then. So I can imagine that sort of thing being the currency of the realm. That's the kind of thing that gets people's attention.
And certainly in the insurance industry in particular, there is, because it's regulatory, there's still a heavy reliance on sending mail, sending paper documents that say this thing is happening to your policy, whether it's your bill being due, your policy being ready for cancellation, a renewal. People like me and people that are younger than me and the people my daughter's age, they don't check the mail. And if they do, they open it maybe once a week. And so letting somebody know that something's happening via a paper document is, unfortunately, it is just outdated. If it wasn't for text message reminders, I probably would forget to pay my power bill. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, even I, rather older than you or your daughter, I look at my mail about once a month. I mean, nobody send me anything that matters at all via physical mail. So I just sort of grab a clump of it, and once a month while I'm watching a Saturday football game, I'll sit there and open all the mail. One of the things you mentioned that I thought was interesting was that a key when you do omni-channel is to synchronize, right? I can't be making a payment and having it show up in that part of the insurer system and not have it reflected elsewhere. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the most important things in order to provide a good user experience isn't necessarily about the color of your buttons or the way your screen is laid out. It is about consistency. Consistency is super important when it comes to multiple channels because that is where your insureds are accessing everything. That means the data has to be the same no matter what channel. If it's the amount due, if it's what your coverages are, if it's what you're displaying across every single channel, that data has to be consistent. The actions have to be the same. And no matter which way you access your policy, you as the insured have to have the expectation that it is going to be handled exactly the same. For older generations, this has presented itself in a lack of trust in online experiences, which is why you'll find them more and more calling somebody on the phone and wanting to talk to customer service to get that information in a way they trust. You can build that same level of trust across the board if all your channels always agree with each other. If I call a customer service rep and they say my amount due this month is $100, it better say it's $100 if I text somebody or if I use the chat bot or if I log into the mobile app. Those pieces right there are what makes a true omni-channel experience absolutely shine.
And these things all tie together, right? I mean, the older research and the new research finding the importance of the user experience, so that you're not only attracting customers, but you're hanging on to the ones you have.
Yeah, you can't in this day and age just get a customer and hope that they will stay. So if you solve one problem, you solve your ability to get policies in the door, or you make your quoting process really easy, but you don't improve the life cycle processes after that, they're going to leave. And we've seen that time and time again with customers that are not either using, don't know about, or customers that don't offer these sort of channels for them to access their policy. They are just going away. It is very easy in 2024 for me to find a different insurance carrier without ever leaving my house. It's not going into an agent and spending hours with them shopping for insurance. It's a quick Google search and I can find somebody else to switch. You want to make sure that you don't give them any reason at all to switch. And so that it's a really good point, because right now, most companies' digital offerings don't stand out. From the people surveyed, only 17% rated their insurance carrier's site and user experience as excellent. That is a pretty low number. And what's even worse is that we see over half rated them as pretty good. Well, when there are that many people lumped into pretty good, you really need to do something different in order to stand out, because that's thousands and thousands and thousands of policyholders that will just go somewhere else because your experience doesn't rank high enough in their opinion to even matter.
Yeah, a couple data points. I've seen all kinds of things from JD Power in particular about how shopping is up, especially since the pandemic. And inflation, everybody's looking for a better deal someplace. So if you've got all those people out there and they're thinking that you're only pretty good at the moment, then yeah, the velocity of change could be way up. The other thing is, just from my standpoint, in terms of what I publish, I see all kinds of people writing things about the importance of retention. If you can move the needle 1 percentage point on your retention, that has a massive impact on the bottom line. And those are the people who you ought to be able to get to. I mean, it may be hard to find a new customer, but you should be dealing with the people you already have as customers, treating them well, doing the sort of thing you're talking about with the user experience, omni-channel, and retaining those customers.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes more and more and more important as just general costs go up across the board to make sure that you're not spending the money out on acquiring new customers constantly just to maintain status quo. And the great thing is from what we're looking at, where brand was so important before, and you were investing so many dollars in marketing and making sure that you have a built brand, you can invest a significant less amount in technology and then still in that insured be nearly equal in their eyes, because it is a lot cheaper to update a user experience than it is to buy 1,000 billboards or a bus stop ad or a Super Bowl commercial.
Right. And I at least don't pay a whole lot of attention to commercials. I'm pretty good at flipping through them, muting them, or whatever. A bit of a side note, but we were talking a little bit about commercial versus personal lines. And you said that commercial maybe is an opportunity because historically it's been underserved in terms of thinking about a user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I came up in personal lines. I was, before I got into tech, I was a personal lines underwriter. I worked in non-standard auto insurance for a long time. And what I've seen is that, personal lines has gotten a lot of attention when it comes to the user experience. Auto in particular has made it very, very easy to do the things that you need to do. Commercial lines, that is not the case. There are still many, many people that are filling out paper accord applications and sending those in to an underwriter to get read. And any commercial line has seen this as well. You've seen the struggles that it comes from not being able to do all of the things that you need to do to manage your policy. And when all of these people have the expectation with their personal lines policy, with their homeowners or their auto policy, that I can manage that online, why should I not be able to manage my BOP policy or my workers' comp policy in the same way? Insurance is insurance for the most part. There's variations in coverages and premium amounts and all that, but for the most part, there's not enough of a difference to warrant the large gap in between how we treat certain lines in this industry. And I think it's ripe to go after that.
So you talked a little bit about this, but I wanted to get back to it. I see a lot of articles from consulting firms recommending that insurers basically rip out all their legacy systems and replace them. But my sense from talking to you and seeing the kind of work you guys have done is that you don't have to do that. You can do a lot of the user experience work you're talking about as sort of a front end, drawing on the existing back end systems. But anyway, I wanted to tee up a question about how complicated this sort of work is and how long before you can start seeing some benefits and so forth.
It's actually not as complicated as you might think, and you're absolutely right. If you have a legacy system, your core system, and it works really well, and it tracks policies and financial information, you are going to be reticent to rip that entire thing out and replace it for a completely different system in order to get a certain degree of benefits that you think that you might be able to get from that. The great thing about your user experience for your insureds is they don't ever see what you have going on in your back office. You can overlay all sorts of different technology on top of your existing systems, insured portals, IVRs, all sorts of different ways that you can engage with your customers. without changing anything on the back end, because your insureds will never know the difference. You solve the top line problem, and you can work on investing in technology behind the scenes slowly, but you don't have to solve this to solve this. And I think that's what a lot of people are scared of, that they're saying, well, this is going to take me, 3 years to remove my core system and replace it with something that is API enabled or real time. And so I won't be able to provide a good user experience until 2027. Well, that's absolutely not true. You can do that work now and quickly, and then work on your back end systems later, because the insureds, they never see those.
So you've talked a little bit about your background, but I'm curious about what caused you to found Insured.io and sort of what the progression has been for the 5 years or so that you guys have been around to get you to the point where you're doing this kind of research on user experience and helping companies improve their user experience.
Yeah, so I mentioned that before. I have worked in insurance for nearly my entire adult life. I was a policy processor at one point. I was a personal lines underwriter for a while, and then I've worked in various states of insurance for many years. And one thing that I constantly saw was the limitations that technology put on insurance companies, and the volume in which customer service would become inundated because you could not do certain actions online. And we founded our company. We actually started well over a decade ago, building custom software solutions. And Insured.io, we founded that in 2019, on the basic principle that you can offer a great customer experience, and that it doesn't have to be a complicated process no matter what you are doing behind the scenes. And we were able to see where much of the failings were, and try and build solutions that helped make both customer service and this general concept of omnichannel attainable for all insurance carriers of any size, no matter what their state of technology is. And I mean, we have 500,000 total registered users on our platforms. We have 250,000 monthly active users on our insured portal at any given time, that have gotten access to an experience that they would not necessarily have by having to construct that in-house or during a rip and replace.
Okay, so we're getting pretty close to time, but we have a few questions that have piled up. I thought I'd go through at least 2 or 3 of them with you, if that works. One question that somebody posed is one user interface appropriate for everybody, or do you need to segment the experience by customer segment?
Well, I think that it's a two-part question a little bit. Is one general user experience appropriate for everybody? It certainly can be, and that's what we speak to about omnichannel, and that's making sure that you have a consistent experience across the board, where consistency is key. Now, for individual segments, that's where we talk about the concept of personalization a little bit, and you do want to make sure that within your customer segmentation, that you are personalizing their experience in such a way that they are not getting information they don't need, that they're not going on a customer journey that's not appropriate for them, especially for carriers that write multiple different lines of business, where you may have different actions that people do at any given time. If you have an auto customer, they're logging in to make a payment probably once a month. But if you have a commercial lines customer, they only may be logging in to make a payment once a year, annually. And if you have a workers' comp customer, they may be logging in every week to update their payroll. So while each one of those may have a different customer journey, the overarching experience should be that of a single unified platform so that they are not jumping from point A to point B to point C and getting lost along the way.
I think that's interesting. You talk about the touch points, um, because I think that's how you communicate to customers that you care about them and that you're efficient and so forth, is in those monthly touches, the annual touch, the weekly touch, or whatever. So anyway, I just think that kind of thing is something that ought to be very important to insurers, and that they maybe historically have not paid as much attention to as they should.
Well, you only have a handful of chances to make a good impression on your insureds. Unlike many applications like an Amazon, where some of us might log into Amazon every day to buy something, I don't log into my insurance policy daily. Most people, hopefully, don't. An auto customer is logging in 12 times a year. Like I said, a commercial lines customer maybe once a year. So you only have a handful of chances to make a great impression on that insured, make it count when they log in, because you don't have it. You don't have next week to fix that, or when they log in tomorrow to fix that. And they may not come back that next month if they were really, really disappointed in the experience.
Right. Another question relates to this idea of apps and the people who are primarily going to use apps or only use apps. Beyond making the app better, do you have thoughts on how you can get more customers to download the app and log into the app?
So this bookends to what I was just talking about really well. I think a lot of companies have a expectation that their mobile app does get downloaded by a lot of people and gets used by a lot of people. And I think that expectation in the insurance industry is not necessarily realistic. As I said, most people are accessing their policy on a very limited basis. So looking to increase adoption is, of course, massively important, but you don't want to expect everybody's using it all the time, because they won't be. You're not providing a massive amount of super interesting information there that somebody might want to come back. However, getting people on board with all of your online experiences comes from outreach. It comes from letting the insured know that way to do something is available. And that's not necessarily putting a stuffer in an envelope that says, hey, now we have an app, or hey, log onto our website. As we talked about, they're not reading those. That's about sending out automated calls. That's about sending out automated texts. That's about notifying them via email to a certain degree, that these options are available to meet them where they're actually going to get this information. Notifications. If you're not reaching out to your customers on a regular basis, they forget you exist until it's time to pay the bill. And that is how you get people to pay attention to you as an insurance company.
Right. Okay, one final question. It's really, do you think you can typically go through a total interaction with the customer via the portal, via automation, or after you get through the frequently asked questions or whatever? Do you think you need to make sure that there's a human available to jump in?
There should always be a human available, and this is something that it's a bit of a soapbox for me. But what I personally feel is that all of the technology that you implement should be about augmenting your customer service and not replacing your customer service. The reason why you provide self-service options to your insureds is so that you can take those common questions, those common tasks, and you can off shift those so that your customer service agents have the ability to spend more time with the insureds that need that assistance the most, because there are complicated coverage questions. that come up all the time that are always going to be best served by a human. As much as we understand insurance, the average consumer does not. And if you start throwing words like coverages and declarations pages at them, they don't know what that means. So not only is there a place for humans, but everything should be about making sure that these humans can do the best jobs that they can do while using this technology to make it so that you're not overwhelmed and inundated with this. An IVR is a great tool to have on the phone, because if your customer service hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, some 40 odd percent of people that call in to make a payment are outside of business hours, because not everybody has the same business hours that an insurance company does. So you capture those people, and then the people that fall into the regular business hours that need help, you're there for them. And I think that is a really, really important distinction. And like I said, it's a little soapboxy, but there was just a great news article that was released the other day about the kiosks at McDonald's, and how, there was a bit of a fear that those kiosks would replace all of these employees, when in fact it's just shifted what those employees do to provide better customer service, assistance with how to use those, to make delivery of the food much faster and at a higher quality, get people through the drive-through faster. This is exactly the same that we're talking about with these self-service methods for insurance.
I saw that article as well. I was also struck that sales increased, because the kiosk would always prompt you, do you want fries with that? Do you want a milkshake or whatever? Whereas somebody who's just inundated isn't necessarily going to be at the cash register saying that. They're going to be thinking about, just moving to the next person in line. So this is great. Do you have any final summary thoughts?
I think that a question that I get a lot is, okay, all this is well and good, but what should I be doing? And so it might restate a little bit of what I said, but realistically, the top 3 things that I think you need to do if you're an insurance company that is looking to improve your user experience doesn't have to do with restyling and design theory and all this, which are very important. But there's some key things that I just want to leave off with. Number 1, we've talked about this. This is synchronization. All of your data should be the same across the board, whether you're getting it from a human, whether you're getting it from a mobile app, whether you're getting it from a text message. Your information needs to be synchronized. 2, journeys need to be simple, and they need to be simple for everybody. If you make it complicated for them to get to the goalpost that you have set, then you're going to get them abandoning that process, and they're going to move on to do something else. You just need to simplify the customer journeys. And then 3, I'll say it again, notifications, notifications, notifications. If you are not reaching out to your customers, you're not doing enough. Just to throw that stat back out, a text message right before cancellation can reduce cancellations by 52%. So if you're not messaging your customers that things are happening with their policy, you are losing your customers. Those are my top 3 things that make a good user experience. And note, none of those are about redesigning everything from scratch and spending a bunch of money on shiny widgets and things that spin and light up. Those are really fun. I love them too, but they're not the most important things.
So that's great. I'll just sort of add my underscoring to that, because this is a journey. We're not headed to a destination. And I've seen this journey happening for a long time, go all the way back to the early days of the first internet boom, when everybody was complaining about how they were being held to the standards of Amazon. I had a conversation with the CEO of Deere, who was complaining that he was getting beaten up by a customer because FedEx 25 years ago for $10 could tell you within an hour when the package was going to be delivered. And his customers were saying, I'm paying you $350,000 for a piece of equipment, and you can't tell me to within 3 months when I'm going to get it. So he was griping about that, but it's continued, it's gotten worse, it's going to keep getting worse. And as you said earlier, the numbers are going to keep getting more extreme. So you think, people are demanding now, they're going to get more demanding. The younger generation is going to get more demanding or whatever. So there's no let up here. And,
Oh yeah, if we do this survey next year and the year after and the year after, these numbers are going to continue to go up until everybody expects all of this. And I do want to underscore your underscore that you said, where you said it is a journey, not a destination. And that is a very good statement in this industry. There is no final end game. There is no, once I get to this point, I have 100% solved every customer experience problem ever. This is an ongoing process that will continue to change and evolve over time. And you absolutely have to be on board with a process that is ever changing, that is dynamic, that in 2025, something is different than it was in 2024, and making sure that you are paying attention as an insurance company to what your customers want now and not what your customers wanted last year or the year before or in 2008, the last time you did a digital transformation. It's fundamentally important to understand that this is just how it is. We're changing forever now.
right. So but you put up on the screen a QR code so people can download the full report. I encourage people to read that. Encourage them to go to your website and look up the research from a year ago on retention. We'll also include a splash screen at the end of this with a way for people with further questions to contact you and your team so you can get back to them. Because this is a really important topic. And I think the research you've done has contributed to what we all know about this. And I look forward to staying in touch and talking with you in the future.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time and you having me. And yeah, if anybody has any further questions, I'm always happy to ramble on for an extended period of time with answers.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much.